We're live.
Hello, we're back. We are into hour 23. So we did manage to get 3 hours sleep. We felt really good. I'm feeling a little bit, I'm wavering in and out at the moment.
I feel all right, I do at the minute. That's not to say things won't change because we still have got quite a few hours left. But
we do.
We could be a lot worse now, couldn't we?
We could be a hell of a lot worse now. We are having
coherent.
Yes, we're just about holding it together. But I'm sure our next guest is going to help us get through the next hours and give us some advice on what one needs to do when they're embarking on a 36-hour podcast-athon. Can I just say a big thank you again to Lawrence Fox for one, really getting behind this campaign, sharing the links for the fundraiser, and also to Richard Vobes, obviously, who did a little video after he came on and really helped us. We only started a YouTube video, how it stayed up. Rick managed to open up a YouTube channel 24 hours ago, and it's managed to stay up. And I know the next guest as well is the perfect person to talk about censorship. My dear friend, Clive De Carle.
Morning,
hello.
Clive.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you?
Well done for staying awake.
Thank you. We did 3
have
hours.
3 hours sleep, but still, considering we started yesterday at midday, we were up earlier than that, obviously.
Yeah,
but
we were up at 8.
At midday yesterday. We're doing all right.
Yeah.
Good. I'm not quite sure why you want to suffer quite so much sleep.
Because we're going to stand and fight for the children on this matter, because we've got to do it. We've got to do it. They are mutilating children. And I really want to talk about things like to do with the body after these effects, Clive, because it's a very difficult subject, but we have to talk about it. What happens when a boy goes through the puberty blockers, then goes through the actual operation? Now, I'm sorry, and I know it's early, but if we don't talk about it, it will continue. So what they do and how they produce and remove the penis to make the vagina, it is horrific. It is horrific. It's an open wound that they have to keep open, and it is disgusting. So Clive, what is all of this doing? I mean, let's first talk about the puberty blockers. What is that doing to children? What are the effects of the puberty blockers?
Well, I'm not actually an expert in this area, but I would have said what it's doing is destroying the child's life. Chances are, I know somebody, I have a client who was a man and had his penis cut open and pushed inside himself to pretend to be a vagina. And he explained to me that every day he has to poke it open because, as you say, it's an open wound trying to heal. So every single day he has to poke the hole open, otherwise he wouldn't be able to. I mean, it's just totally.
It's just disgusting, isn't it?
They're doing it to children, though, now. They're not even putting the children through going to see counsellors and everything else.
It's just an affirmation process immediately.
Yeah, well, those people who are doing that, authorising that, need to be taken out of their position of abuse. And I don't know what you should do with them, but I mean, obviously, you're correct, it has to be stopped. But let's wind back a little bit. Before all this madness happened, what have people been doing around the world for ages? Well, they've been cutting off the end of boys' penises. For why? Well, one of the effects of cutting of circumcision is the fact that women are able, through the smell that comes out from the uncircumcised penis, to tell whether a woman is right for the man or not. Right? And once circumcision has happened, that particular gland that makes that smell, which women realize, yes, this is the right partner or the wrong partner, is gone. So could it be that a lot of marriages break up because the man's been circumcised, the normal smell process doesn't happen, and the woman marries the wrong man, where intuitively otherwise they would have known that it's the wrong man? So there's been a lot of research on circumcision done around the world, but not nearly enough. But one particular study was in Norway, and they looked at men in prison for violence in Norway. And it turned out, I can't remember the number, but something like 90% of them had been circumcised, the violent men, whereas only 3%, I think, of men in Norway are circumcised. So it seemed to be fairly proof positive that circumcising men can, in certain circumstances, lead to violence. And if you look at the countries where the most circumcision takes place, I would suggest maybe that you would find countries like Israel, countries like America, create the most violence in the world. I may be wrong about that, but that's my perception. I don't know what you both think.
I mean, I can't comment on that at all, because I don't know any of the research on that at all, Clive. I mean, you know, with regards to the puberty blockers and stopping puberty and delaying puberty, I mean, that must have some serious side effects, one would think, mentally as well.
Well, irreversible side effects too, you know. Sterilization is one of them. They use puberty block. They use them to castrate paedophiles. A lot of the Lupron was one of the manufacturers of the. I think they, at the time, they had like one of the biggest fines ever recorded. It was like 800 and something. Million or something like that. There's a lot of money to be made, and obviously those who do take puberty blockers most of the time continue their process onto cross-sex hormones, where you've got obviously the estrogen for the male and the testosterone for the female, which is obviously when they gain their traits either way. And then you've got the surgery that comes after that. Not always the case, but even in just looking at the pharmaceutical side of it, they've got those patients, I'm going to call them, because that's what they will be, for life. Because once they start taking these things, to maintain that in any way, shape or form, or even normality, they have to continue to take them forever. And their lifespan is shortened massively. I don't know if you've seen, it's a trans man who speaks out. He was on the documentary What is a Woman, Scott Nugent, and he was actually in London this weekend. Yeah. He was at a drag queen event, because he speaks out about transitioning children. And when he transitioned, he was 42 years old. And if they can get a 42-year-old, a vulnerable 42-year-old, then you've got every chance of getting a child whose brains are not developed yet. So this process is a huge money maker for the medical industrial complex as well. It just gets fed back in through that system. Surgery, something like 1.5 million if you're having, and like Lou was saying about the process of it, and for a female to male to make the phalloplasty, they take skin grafts continually from the arm. And we've seen photos of
we did have an image of that.
I think Rick actually might
put it up the other day.
Yeah, so just the feeding of the pharmaceutical industry once again with these kids is absolutely shocking. And that's, like I say, not even mentioning the irreversible ill effects that come with them, but are sold to them as if you can just stop taking these tablets and everything will go back to normal. And it's just not true,
Yeah, truly horrendous. So do you see progress from your end, what you guys are doing, or
Yeah, we definitely do. I mean, in the way that everything seems to be coming out now, like
there's getting more people. Kimberly's being much more, she knows now. I mean, how did it start in 2020? It was,
2020
a small group of parents, of Welsh parents talking out, and it's just kind of now growing into a movement. But it's very, very difficult, Clive, when these parents are all working parents, everybody linked to Public Child Protection Wales, it's all done in their spare time. They're fighting, it's David and Goliath time, trying to fight this machine, but they're getting there, they're getting more and more exposure, with people from this weekend, people who do have that reach. We've had Richard Vobes yesterday. He was absolutely fantastic. He stayed with us most of the day. He was in the comment box. He was even did a video encouraging people to
and
watch.
that actually really did help.
And it did, you know. So
it's
this is what's needed. People around the country.
He's with us today as well.
He's done it again today. Apparently.
Yeah, he's been with us all morning, and I think he's done another video as well for us.
Oh, bless him! Yeah.
So this is what it's needed. It's exposure, because so many parents don't realise, Clive, what's going on in the classrooms. Because we've got the video somewhere that I think Rick's going to line up later of Dr. Ellie Barnes, and she's responsible for getting the books and lesson plans and not lesson plans, but how to make the school
an LGBT friendly place.
And there's the video of her at a teacher training day, telling the teachers, you don't give letters home and tell parents what you're doing in the classroom, because the last thing you need is 30 angry parents at your door.
So they're aware.
So they're aware that what they're doing is wrong, Clive.
So what's happening with homeschooling? Is there now a big movement in Wales?
Definitely. I mean, there was anyway, because it was growing a while back when I took, Grace has been home educated for 6, 7, 8, nearly 9 years now. So back when we took her out, it was already on the increase. So COVID obviously brought out another big wave. But I was saying to somebody yesterday, I take my daughter, she goes, the home eds meet at all different times and places, because the community is massive now and it's just growing. And ours for once a month, they go bowling and we get a discount and whatever, because it's in school hours. And usually there was like 9 of them, teenagers. So these are just the teenagers, not the younger ones. 9 of them would go bowling and we'd meet up with those once a month. And I took her last month or the month before, and there were 20 kids there, 20 teenagers on that one bowling. So to me, I can see it within the community, literally in my own home education community. It is growing massively. But the issue is the government has obviously clicked on to the fact that these children are being pulled out of school. So they wanted to bring out what they called the schools bill, that was making a big noise last year, where they want every single home educated child on a register. It was by April this year, it was supposed to be, on a register, so they can monitor and they can still give this. This is how they're trying to do it. So you've got, so I don't really know anybody's names specifically who are fighting against the schools bill, just that they are, and they've got that fight to deal with, because they obviously know that if pulling them out of school, they're not going to be indoctrinated as they need to be. So this is why they're coming down hard, or attempting to come down hard on the home education community.
So when you took the Welsh government to court, why didn't you win?
Well, corrupt judicial system, really. But basically, in the judicial system, we had obviously going on the parental opt-out and parental responsibility. They basically said, in a nutshell, that you haven't really got parental rights. You didn't really have parental rights. And if you did, they were very minuscule. And the only 2 options that you've got for, they're basically saying they're doing it anyway, whether you like it or not. The options that you've got is you either privately educate, which we know most people can do, or they can't afford it, or you home educate. And again, not everybody can do that. I mean, it's great that people can do it, but I appreciate that, the way things are, the cost of living crisis, the way society is being broken down, people can't afford to eat, never mind be able to homeschool. So, this is the whole point. Like, my daughter is home educated, but I'm aware that I need to fight for her generation and the future generations, and not just her,
So is anybody in the mainstream picking it up? Any local news? I mean, anybody who's mainstream?
Well, there has been some. I mean, they've had to at times, because we've really poked the bear. In Wales, where we got the judicial review, and we're very lucky, and Kim says it, and she's absolutely right. We're lucky to be a small country in that respect, because we can get up and down, left, east to west, not a problem within one day, a round trip, whatever. But we've got 22 local authorities in Wales, only 22. I know there are far, far, far more in England. And we've got 21 out of those 22 local authorities active. So there's people constantly at the councillors and on at the council and the schools and whatever. So that's really, it's benefited us to be small in that way, because you can be in England and one county doesn't know what's going on from the next. But in Wales, 95% of us are active from that, at least towards the local authorities, and constantly doing something about it. So we do have that benefit of being a small country.
So the people ultimately responsible for the decisions, right at the top of the tree, Are they being individually targeted, like people are camped outside their front door, that kind of thing?
No, I don't think so. I mean, this is the problem with it. You know, we are on appeal at the moment, though. You know, that was back in November. We had the decision, I think it was just before Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
But that judicial review is in case law now anyway. And there are parts of it, although we didn't win because it's in case law, there are parts of it that could be beneficial to us later down the line when we're taking people personally responsible for their, you know, and accountability.
And everybody
then for
works.
what
The
they're
thing
doing.
is, it's not like there's time that people can take off to go and camp outside because they've got their families to look after, and
Yes,
they're all
difficult
working.
work.
You know, they, as we've said throughout this broadcast, with, you know, we're up. It's up. These parents are up against David and Goliath.
We've
You
done
know.
we did a 10-day tour as well around Wales last week and the week before. So we did two locations every day for 10 days. And it was all at North Wales, Mid Wales and South Wales. So we're getting around quite quick, and I think they want to do another one at the end of May as well. So we've got the May the 17th event, which is Kim's filled all the paperwork and everything in there now for us to be able to do a demonstration in is it Parliament Square?
In Parliament Square,
outside
and
Westminster.
it's Prime Minister's question time
Yeah,
that day.
on
Lawrence
so it's on
Fox
Wednesday.
has just agreed to come on, which is very kind of him.
Yeah.
We've got David Curtin from the Heritage. They've got him going to speak.
Yeah,
You're
he's
speaking. Kimberly's speaking.
Yeah.
And
we're hoping to get a lot there because we've got a
got-
lot coming up from South Wales. We've filled coach and
there are people coming from Scotland because it's time. This education doesn't just affect Wales.
yeah, it's
You
all
know,
of us.
it's all of us. But the last battlefield, you know, is basically Wales, Clive. So they're waiting for the review. But I mean, it's the damage that's also so worrying that it's doing to these children. The psychological, you know, the trans regret side of things, which you bring up a lot.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of people out there regretting what they've done, but that doesn't get publicised. And it's also the mental health issues. The kids are being scared. Little children are being scared, little girls, to say, you know, they're going to bleed when they're older, and they're getting petrified. We want to be a boy, you know. And the puberty blockers, it's the mental and what it's doing, Clive, to the brain. It's the generation that we're screwing up. What are your thoughts on the damage it's doing mentally?
Gosh, well, let me answer a different way. When the truckers went on strike in Canada, I felt they were making a huge mistake, because what they did is they all got together in groups and went into a city centre and occupied the city centre, which actually wasn't particularly useful for the people. It didn't work. However, I felt that if they'd split up into groups of 10s or 50s or whatever and had parked their trucks outside the houses, the homes of the people in charge, you know, the actual bosses who are bringing in the crazy laws, that only then will it have an effect. I mean, great, you know, protesting outside Parliament, but 3 million people did that for Iraq and it didn't work. I think we have to rethink our approach and take it personally. That the people who are responsible in the council, in the schools, whatever it is, you know, not everybody works. There are enough people in Wales who aren't working who could spend some time because, you know, they don't care. These psychopaths in charge, they don't care. The only way they can be made to care is when it is taken to their home. I
do see.
I don't understand why people aren't doing that.
Yeah, we need more boots on the ground.
We do need more boots on the ground, and it's also people to work out their, you know, use their own initiative to do so. They don't, you know, that Kimberly's there, she's fronting Public Child Protection Wales. She's also a mum, looking after her children. She's the spokeswoman. She's only one person. So it's, if you feel something's right, just do it. You know, they're your children, your responsibility. Get in touch with the school. You know, join Public Child Protection Wales, speak to other parents, and organise it out. And people have just got to do it on there. They don't need a leader to approve it. They're your children. If something doesn't sit right,
do something about it. You
know your children better than anybody.
Yeah, exactly. And we can all unite on that front.
Yeah,
you know,
and it has brought all these different faiths, people from different walks of life, all uniting for one thing, and that's to
which
protect.
gives me hope. that really does give me hope, because that is the one thing that they've done for a long time, is that good old divide and conquer. So the fact that they can't do it in this case is probably doing their heads in. That's why we haven't been on mainstream media, because there's nothing. If they could paint us as bigots or transphobes or homophobes in any way, they'd have definitely done it by now. But they know, because we're such a blended group. I'm not going to say diverse, because that's totally been jumped on, and it's been sort of tainted now, isn't it? We're such a blended group that when they point a camera into our crowd, they don't know if they're talking to a Christian or a lesbian. So they can't spin their narrative on it. Do you see what I mean? So that is effectively why they have done a few because they had to. Remember when, I think it was when we put in for the injunction back in August last year, and we had to pull Jeremy Miles and whatever out of their little holiday. He had to come out and say a statement because he was being hammered. They know they're being hammered. Even a couple of weeks ago, we went down to, so Jeremy Miles is the education minister here in Wales. He knows full well, he's been supportive of this education before he even became education minister. And he was at a local rugby club, doing some sort of business thing he was doing.
This is brilliant.
So we thought we got somebody to, it was an email type of thing. You had to email to get a seat and whatever else. So we had 4 spaces. Obviously we had fake names and whatever, to see if we can go in and, obviously confront him on it, because he keeps saying we're full of misinformation and this, that and the other. So we're trying to confront him on that to show us which information is misinformation, and we'll take it away. Anyway, just before, about an hour before we were due to go in, I was even all dolled up in business type clothes. Kim rang me, she said, we've been rustled. They've sent the email back to the lady who booked us our 4 spaces and said, we are really sorry, but there's no capacity for your 3 guests, but there is enough room for you. So we took the PA system down anyway. There was only about 7 of us outside the rugby club, and they were inside, and our friend was inside. So she was taking photos. They were like rows and rows of empty seats, so they knew it was us. So what we did is we went by the fire door, and Kim we had the mic and the PA system, and it was only about a 10-minute thingy, and she was calling out Jeremy Miles for his, lies but they could hear inside. And the lady who was sat in there, watching everything, she said as soon as she could hear, they could all hear Kim on the microphone completely calling out Jeremy Miles and telling him to come out and confront us and show us this misinformation. The blood just went from his face. He was just they carried on anyway, and then they wouldn't come out of the main gate. So bearing in mind, the people who were there were only like 5'1". We're all women, do you know what I mean? There was only about 7 of us, and he was too scared to come out in his car. So they basically waited until we'd gone, and then they must have got him out of there. But he knows we're not frightened in any way, shape or form. We're not intimidated. We've got the truth on our side.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you've got Kimberly Isherwood shouting out on the mic, you want to run. He's absolutely petrified of her, because he knows that he's in the wrong. He absolutely knows it. He's had, there's been countless complaints going in here in Wales. They're very well aware, but he is a simple yes man. They put him in that position for that reason.
So, getting back to your earlier question, I think it might be worth talking about why there is gender confusion amongst children these days. And I would suggest there are 2 main reasons, aside from the ridiculous education that they're receiving. One is that probably in the school meals, let's say the chicken nuggets that they poison the children with at lunchtime, there's almost certainly soya in there. So you give soya to anybody, man or woman, it will change their sex hormones, because soya in unprocessed form, soya that has not been fermented like soy sauce, the textured protein soya stuff that they shove in children's school meals because it's incredibly cheap, is not only, if it's not organic, can be genetically modified, but more importantly, it's an estrogen mimic. It is a xenoestrogen, and that is going to upset children's idea of what their sexuality is, because if they're getting female hormones, they are going to become more female. So soya is a very, very dangerous product. Secondly, plastic bottles. children are sent to school with a plastic water bottle. And I was in the plastics industry for a while because I used to work with contact lenses. And I'm fully aware that once you blow plastic, they take a little slug of solid plastic like that, blow it into a bottle, which takes a second or something like that. And then they should leave that bottle to set for 3 or 4 weeks so that the volatile plasticizers, the plastic chemicals, have time to set. But of course, they can't do that. Otherwise, the plastic bottle water factory would have a mountain of plastic bottles that were waiting to set for 4 weeks. That's not going to happen. So they fill them with water the moment after they've blown bottle. And that means that for the next 3 or 4 weeks, the plasticizers in the plastic bottle leach out into the water, which people then drink. And because it is another type of xenoestrogen, every time your son or daughter drinks a plastic bottle, or you do, it is changing your sex hormones. And in some cases, it appears that too much plastic, too much soya literally affects people's idea of who the hell they are. And so parents need to really understand the dangers of plastic water bottles. Now, if the plastic water bottle is a month old, then you can refill it with water, and it should be relatively safe because most of the plasticizers have off-gassed. And now it's harder. A plastic water bottle, when it's just made, is still, so to speak, a bit soft, and it hardens as it sets. It's pretty straightforward stuff. So, soya is such a dangerous food, and people just don't realize. I mean, over my lifetime, I'm going to be 70 next year. Over my lifetime, I've seen the changes in children. When I was at school, I was a day boy, but it was a boarding school as well. I just happened to live locally, so I could be a day boy. But you were aware of who was gay. You were aware of that. And I've observed over the years that the whole gay thing has absolutely mushroomed, skyrocketed in comparison to how it was. Yeah. And why is that? Well, I really do believe that it's these plasticizers, the artificial estrogens, that have a huge, huge part to play.
Yeah, they will do. And so, it's the influence as well, because it's part of the agenda, isn't it? The whole agenda, the long agenda is part of it too. So the influence again, and it's not just in school. We know that online is very harmful for children for many different reasons. The main one being the access to pornography and whatever they want. But I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry, I got distracted because I looked at your screen.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Oh no, sorry. Like the music industry in Hollywood, for example. It's very open sex, and the sexual revolution, the sexual liberation movement was all part of this too. And the end game is to be so openly free and do what thou wilt, is the acceptance of paedophilia. This is the last taboo. Yeah. Paedophilia, incest, and bestiality, and that is essentially where we are now. And why is absolutely abhorrent that what they're doing to kids, not just in school but online. But obviously school, they spend a lot of time there. They're sent off, told, listen to the teacher. Don't
listen to your parents if you're.
Well, yeah, he's cutting the parents off completely. Anyway. That's what they're doing in schools. It's keeping secrets from your parents or from anyone. It's really dangerous for children at the moment. This school, and not a lot of people understand that. It's not. They just think that they've got so much trust. And actually, we had Ronnie Herman on last night.
From Canada.
And some of the things that she told us, because she's an ex-teacher, she resigned in 2020 when she couldn't take any more of it. But she was saying that even 8 or 9 years before COVID happened, they were having lockdown drills in school. And she used to deal with like 5-year-olds. And what they would do is basically, it'd be like a terrorist type of thing, wouldn't it? Oh no, a paedophile, she said.
Something like an intruder into the school. So that she said, basically, there'd be this alarm. It was the lockdown alarm. So they would go and all hide in a corner, close the curtains and the doors and stay quiet. And then obviously another teacher would walk up, but the kids would be
shake the door
and the kids would be absolutely terrified. And then she's got to sit there. No, it's all pretend.
Yeah, even though they know that there's no. But they would have kids peeing their pants. They were that traumatized by it, and they weren't even allowed to tell the parent that had taken place in school that day. So some of those children obviously went home and acted out because it's just a traumatizing experience, and the parents didn't have a clue what was going on. And this was years ago, so they were already.
And then the school barricaded the doors of the school, so parents
COVID, they
during the
couldn't get
COVID,
in.
so they couldn't get
Literally
in.
with a table, and it was an open door policy in their school as well. And she said things just really drastically changed during COVID. And it is one of the reasons I think it even all happened now. The more I think,
we probably
about
won't stay on YouTube now. We've said that word a few times.
Oh.
It's all right, you weren't to know, because we're usually on Rumble. We don't usually do YouTube. And Clive knows all about censorship, don't you, Clive?
Yeah, they've had a go at me over the years.
Yeah. So what this mentally damaging these kids? What can we expect with future generations, Clive, if this goes on? Do you think?
Well, I think. Sorry to say this, but I think we're in a genocide right now.
Yeah.
And there's only one answer at the end of the day. There's only one answer, and that is that governments globally have to end, because they're enslaving everybody. And there are 4 simple changes that could be made in the world overnight so that tomorrow we could be living in a different place. And the first change I would suggest is that the members of parliament go away, and they're replaced by 600 people who care, who are not corrupt, who are lovely people, hopefully as intelligent as possible, so that they make the right decisions, as opposed to having corrupt psychopaths in there. I don't see there's a problem with Parliament. Seems like a decent way to sort things out. Was it the Sioux Nation who had a Congress of 300 women, elderly women, because they believed that they could make decisions for 7 lifetimes that would be worthwhile, whereas people with interests might not be so unbiased. So I don't think there's anything wrong with Parliament. It's just the people populating it. I don't see there's any problem with the civil service, because civil servants having 500,000 or however many there are, 1 million servants for us, the people, is a very nice thing. The way I see it is your parking warden locally should help you park, not fine you for doing something that they don't like.
Everyone's enemies now, though, and they, Clive, that's the problem. They turned man against man.
So I think if you said to every civil servant, the police, the fire brigade, every civil servant, that here is, just to remind you, here's the definition of the word servant. The word servant means that you help people. That's it, basically. We pay you, you help us. Yeah. You don't fine us, hinder us, lock us up, teach our children outrageous things. So we've got Parliament that gets changed, civil service that gets the word servant redefined, then you've got corporations. Now, I don't have a problem with corporations on one level. I mean, for instance, let's say eBay, Amazon, Google. They used to be, still are to some degree, incredibly useful tools. The problem is they're all owned by private individuals. If the country, the people, owned Google, for instance, and it became free again, it's Google used to be the most fabulous resource of every piece of information on the planet, virtually. It was great, very, very useful. Same with Amazon. If Amazon wasn't a not-for-profit business, yes, the people selling on Amazon, they've got to make a profit, got to make a living, but Amazon itself should not be for profit. It should be a public service. And so if all corporations were told that your directors, the corporate directors, will now be personally liable. If you destroy the environment, just like if I run a company, if I do something that isn't right, there's a cost to pay. But with directors of corporations currently, there is no cost. They can do whatever they like.
No, exactly.
The power of the corporation to protect them. So individual directorial liability for corporations. And the last one is to go back to the Bradbury pound, where money is printed without interest, without private bankers. If you made those 4 changes, I think all the problems of the world will go away, because people don't start wars, governments start wars. Everything that's being done that we don't like is governmental. Governments have allowed the needlecraft people to get away with things. How can a government give freedom from liability to people who are damaging children? How can they do that? So I don't see there's any small changes. I don't see that marches can, in this late stage of destruction of society, work. I believe right now it has to be taken to the people who are enacting the policies.
No, but it's just a big, massive mess at the moment, isn't it?
But it could end overnight. Overnight everything could change. When governments go on holiday at Christmas, things do not get worse because they're not doing anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Governments are on holiday.
Exactly. They're wasting our money in there and they just do wrong things all the time.
And it's the same with doctors. There have been cases in the world, Australia, South Africa, Israel, I believe, where doctors have gone on strike, right? Less people die when doctors aren't working.
Yeah, that's exactly right, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's exactly. I mean, they weren't really working for those 2 years, really, were they?
Well, I think there's still not a lot of them.
Exactly.
It's interesting how the world's being taken apart. My youngest daughter wanted to get driving lessons, and she said, I've tried, I can't get, she lives in Bath, she said, I can't get driving lessons, impossible. I thought, that's crazy, I'll have a go. So I rang up 15 driving instructors. None of them can take bookings. And I said, why? And I said, well, what if I book for next year? No, still can't do it. So it turns out that here where I live, the big town where they do the driving instruction is Salisbury. The government have changed the rules now for driving test examiners, right? And so now for the whole of the Salisbury area, I don't know, 1 million people, I don't know how many people, a lot, there's 1.5 driving instructors. 1.5, because all the rest have left. They either quit during COVID and took the money to stay at home and then didn't come back. But the government apparently made it so difficult to become a driving test examiner that not only are the wages really bad, but to get to that stage of being allowed to be an examiner is incredibly difficult. So there's only 1.5 driving instructors left in the whole of the Salisbury area. So obviously we know they don't want people to travel.
Yeah.
How the government are doing it is they're making it impossible to get driving tests.
Yeah. Yeah, they're using another angle. I was just about to say that. They're just feeding into
anything
they
can jump on
to stop you doing it.
Government has to end. There isn't.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Clive.
It'd be so easy. As I say, when they're on holiday, things don't get worse.
No, exactly. What do they actually do other than just manipulate us, steal from us, murder us, pillage us,
and rape our children?
Yeah, basically.
But then the next question is, how many people does it take to change things? I would have said prior to the 2020 rubbish, maybe 5% of people were awake in the world who could see through the bullshit. Now, it's got to be more. Maybe it's coming towards 10%, maybe, I don't know, probably not. But what percentage does it take to change something? Let's say 60 or 70% of the population will go along with anything.
Yeah.
So what if 20% were awake to what you're saying, awake to the agenda? Is that enough to change things? What percentage of the population does it change where actually we win? Any idea?
Oh, no.
I think we will win, but we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop fighting because we've got to do that. We have to do that. Even though, my children are grown up, Catherine homeschools, it doesn't matter. It's every child, it's just abhorrent and it's evil and it has to be exposed, but they're making it so difficult. I mean, as you lost your YouTube channel, which was huge, Clive. I mean, we tried making more accounts for you and literally like half an hour and they're gone. You can't even use, you can't even use Google. I mean, they're just making it impossible to share people and how people can.
Well, they're doing that to us today. They won't let anybody share.
Yeah, no one can share on Facebook our links. So Facebook has stopped that. We've managed to fly under the radar so far on YouTube.
So let me ask you a question. Maybe you know the answer to this. How many transgender people are there in the UK? Is it 1 in 10,000?
I don't actually know the figure on this. I
No,
don't
we can
know
have a
because
look,
it's
though.
going
I'm
to
sure we can
continue
have a
to
look.
change. I'll get up. Actually, I don't know
Kimberly
it.
will
It's
know.
crazy. If 1 in 10,000 people can insist that children get this type of education, that is not that we're in a democracy, but that is far from democratic.
Well, look at the way
Exactly.
everything's got to change. You know, we're being restricted with our speech. You know, a guy walking down, a burly guy with muscles walking down the street in a dress. You know, and you say something, you call him. I mean, look, what's
That's
the
dead
product?
naming,
That's
that
it,
is.
yeah, and
That's
then
what we call it.
it's silly. You know, that every part of our lives, Clive, is attacked, and we have to bend all our values, everything. For, as you say, the very, very small minority of people, because I've said this during the night. I remember back 10, 11 years ago, there was somebody wanting to go through, a gentleman going through sex change. They had to go through years of kind of counselling, you know, and it was like, it was a mental health issue. You know, it really was a very long, drawn out process to get there. And now it's just like that, and there's no.
That's why we know he's pushing into an agenda, because
And
it's
they know
built
what
up
they're
behind
doing.
them with all this money from, you know, these people. That's
Soros
how we know.
behind it, and that's why this fundraiser is so important, Clive, because you know they're fighting. You know, and I'm going to keep saying it. They need help. These 5 parents need help with these legal costs, because it's every single child here in the UK.
Yeah.
Every single child in the UK is going to go through this education. We heard from Ronnie Herman. We heard what was going on in America from Dave Sumrall, and we're going to be speaking
with
and in
Andy.
Ireland. We're going to talk to Tanya Joy Gibson later on as well. It's coming. They're coming for the children. They've got the weight of the government's, people's, taxpayers' money, and then you've got the likes of the Soros, you know, the Stonewalls, pumping money into this agenda. You go to the cash point, you know, in this next coming month that's coming up, you're going to be hit with rainbow flags in your face. You know, every product on a supermarket shelf is going to be a proud sponsor of LGBTQ. They're even putting it on cat food. You know, why? You drive up the road, there's a new housing thing which is done by Barratt Homes. Rainbow flags up there.
They got
why does it have to?
Thingies,
you know,
everything.
we've got footballers taking
I was
the
watching
knee.
an Arsenal. My friend had posted it, Sean, and it was a meme, and it was at the Arsenal stadium, and they had across a row of the seats a massive flag. Love is love. And I don't like that one, because that's where you're openly going, oh, love is love. Doesn't matter, age is just a number. This is where all this little craziness comes from, you know. So they bring in everybody into this, every restaurant, every pub, every, you know, that's how we know.
And because
the
people
money
are
comes
scared not
them.
to do it, you see, because they want
exactly.
people to come to their business and they don't want to be labelled.
That's what a lot of it is.
A label. So, you know, Clive, we're hoping that you can put a shout out to people to get why they should get behind these very incredible mums and parents of what, you know, fighting this agenda.
So what I find absolutely incredible is, you know, here are four of us, and we have an audience of 1.
No, we're streaming everywhere. We're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're on the website, and we're on Facebook.
Oh, okay. So it's not just on Zoom.
No, Zoom's just you and I. That's us. The only one person is you.
Wondering where everybody was. I was being silly.
I hope not, because Richard Vogue said lots of people. We're all over the place now. So Facebook, we've been taken down a few times. It's trouble sharing. And the one person on Zoom is you.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
So why, Clive, would you say, and you know, a lot of people coming in and out as well, because we have been now broadcasting coming up to the 24-hour mark. So yeah, Clive, we're getting the guests on, and we're trying to encourage people to donate to Public Child Protection Wales, so we can help ease the court costs that are being put on these parents for daring to challenge the government over this education. The appeal is going through, and we just got to get behind them. They're 4 working class families, 5 working class families. Everybody who is supporting them and doing what they're doing are purely grassroots, and everyone fighting for the same cause. So that's why we're asking the guests just to to give a minute or so to encourage people to support these parents.
Sure. Well, I'll put out a message after this to get people to log in. So what do they log into?
They can go to any platforms under every link, every video that's playing out now.
libertytactics.co.uk, they'll find them in there.
Yeah, they'll find them there, but underneath the videos they're watching, the link should be there. The fundraiser link will be there.
Okay, so they go on to Rumble. What do they put in?
Liberty Tactics.
Okay.
Go into Rumble, go to Liberty Tactics. But you go to libertytactics.co.uk and you can find the posts
and the
there,
donate buttons
and the donate buttons and all the links. Or alternatively, go to publicchildprotectionwales.org and go via donate. But it would be nice to have the money go to this campaign so we can see how much the viewers of the campaign
But if they can't find
it,
to Public Child Protection Wales,
but they should be able to find Liberty
campaign, but
Tactics.
they'll find it on there anyway. It's in the fundraisers, isn't it?
So we just got a question for you, Clive. It's from Louise. Is there any way to purchase plastic bottles that is safe for children to use? Obviously, they've banned glass bottles in school.
I didn't know they'd banned glass bottles in school. That's insane. There are people advertising bottles which they say are safe, non-BPA bottles and so on, how safe they really are. But I mean, the first thing is smell the bottle. If you can smell plastic, it's leaching plastic. I would suggest that's quite possible. And some plastic bottles smell disgusting. They always smell disgusting. Some aren't so bad. So,
and Lisa said, was it soy or soya that's bad?
Soya and soy are the same thing.
Yeah.
The only safe soya product is when it's been fermented or treated in some way. Tofu has been treated. When they make tofu, as far as I remember, they use magnesium chloride to create it. And then there's a liquid that's left over at the end, which I believe they used to throw away as a waste product. But I believe now they call it soya milk.
Right, okay.
And the children brought up on soya formula milk, many of them are now incapable of having children, men or women, because they've been given a plant juice when they should have been given animal milk or human milk better.
Yeah.
So there's such dangerous foods that we're feeding our children. And of course, cheap food is usually bad food.
Yeah, that's why it's cheap. They know people can't afford it, so they'll take that.
Exactly. Well, Clive, thank you so much. Could you say just to ask while you're on air, just encourage people to donate to the campaign and why it's so important?
Well, exactly. Donate to this campaign because children are the future. The whole point of us being here is for children. It's, essentially. And, we're supposed to be leaving the planet a better place. And
exactly. Thank you so much, Clive,
really
for everything that you do.
Lovely
and
talking
everyone
to
can
you.
check out Clive at clivedecarle.com or go to Linktree and look for Clive De Carle. Thank you so much, Clive.
Thank you, Clive.
I suggest that you both take a couple of extra hours off and don't knock your body down because you feel you've got to do 24 hours to be brave and strong and supportive. I really recommend that 3 hours isn't enough, and everybody who's supporting you does not want you to be wiped out for the rest of the week or ill.
Thank you.
We're all right, Clive, to be honest. We're absolutely fine, and we're being fed and whatever as well. We're doing all right. We're doing fine.
I know, we're taking one for the team.
Night,
one night,
But thank you for the
Thank
concern.
you.
No, I do appreciate that.
He's all about looking after people.
No,
and
that's
it's
nice,
just,
that is.
it's great to have a Clive.
Cheers, Clive. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for coming on.
Thank you very
Love
much.
you to pieces. Bye, Clive.
Thank you for everything you're doing. Absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely love you. Bye. Honestly, that man saved my life. He really did. I'm just feeling all emotional now all of a sudden. Go on, you pop off. We're going to play. Oh, what fun we had. We talked about the truckers' convoy. Me and Rick went on a convoy. We left Devon. We drove to London at 40 miles an hour the whole way to London. And it was a hoot. We shut down the M25. Rick got lots of tickets come from police. and Yuli's people and all of this, but that's a show for another day. It cost us a bloody fortune. Well, it cost Rick a bloody fortune in petrol, but we did it. It was great. So Rick's got the little video that we did of our day being truckers.
Breaker 19, this here's a rubber duck. You got a copy on me, love machine? 10-4 pig pen, for sure. By golly, it's clean, clear to Taco Town. Yeah, we definitely got us the front door, good buddy. Mercy sakes alive, looks like we got us a convoy.
Arizona, noon on the 7th of June, when they highballed over the pass. Bulldog Mac with a cannon back and a Jaguar hauling ass. He's 10 on the floor, stroking bores, seat cover starting to gain. Now, Beaver, you were trucking with a rubber duck, and I'm about to pull a plug on your drain.
Up here.
We've got a 1,000-car convoy here. I'm going to go up a bit further.
Texas lizard on glass.
About 1,000 cars leaving now.
We trucked all day and we trucked all night. Big Benny improving our style. We could tell by the smell we was heading for hell, and the devil was Dirty Lyle. And he hated his truck, and he loved to bust truckers for fun. So he followed the line, and he bided his time, and he watched for his chance to strike. Then he picked on a trucker, yeah, wiry old sucker, yeah, the trucker they call Spider Mike. But the great rubber duck sort of run out of luck when he crossed that final bridge. There's choppers and rigs full of guns and pigs, they's wall to wall on the ridge. He showed no fear as he grabbed his gear, and he stuck it to Granddaddy low. Them guns went boom, and his ass went zoom, and the Mac took a terminal blow.
About you, Big Nasty. Come on there, say, listen, Big Nasty, we sure are glad you're along on this here run to kick ass, don't you know? 10-4, I know you can't say kick ass on the CB back.
Well, that big black Mac stopped dead in their tracks when the trailer blew high in the air. There was pieces of truck and some pieces of duck and junk and debris everywhere. Then the rig took a drink and commenced to sink, and there was no duck no more. But that evil smile from dirty old Al showed south from the North Texas shore.